Welcome to the Odd Life Podcast. That's AWED, which stands for Awake, Well, and Empowered. We're here to have conversations to inspire women of all ages to live odd AF. So thank you for joining me. Let's dig in. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. How's it going? What's happening out there? What's happening that I've been paying attention to has been this recent Senate panel. It's a bipartisan effort to address the toxic food industry here in America, which I'm all for. It was coined as Make America Healthy Again. I think one of the parties has tried to adopt this as their now new initiative, which is interesting because I think some of the past behaviors and things they passed were not super healthy regarding our food quality and our water quality. They rolled back some of those restrictions and companies were allowed to do a lot more. So I'm interested to see how much that actually is going to be followed through on if that's the case. But what I hope is that this gets a lot more attention by Americans. And the frustrating thing is this has been going on for so long. I mean, I think about my generation when we were growing up. I've discussed this before, but the amount of sugar and food dye and processed foods that I took in as a kid, and I know that things have changed now. There's more chemicals they've introduced, more processed things, more preservatives than we were kids. We were the initial guinea pigs. And now our kids have been exposed to so much more. When I think back about growing up, I had migraines as a kid and I was sick all the time. A lot of strep, congestion, things like that. There were some foods that had a lot of nitrates and sodium and preservatives in it that they suggested I take out of my diet as a kid. I ate a lot of lunch meat as a kid. I kind of love bologna. I don't know why. It's weird. Bologna. I had a lot of processed cheese, all that stuff as a kid. Food dyes like crazy. All the Laffy Taffy, Blow Pops, Smarty Suckers, licorice. I was an absolute sugar. And that lasted actually for quite a while. And I got into adulthood. I would go on road trips and I would eat all the candy with the kids. Didn't even think about it. And it was when my middle child was probably like second or third grade. And the boys started playing a little higher level of baseball. I should say higher level, but just they had to start stealing bases and things like that. And I'll never forget this. One of the kids in the team struggled so much with learning the signs. We probably had two signs. Either you steal or you don't steal. That's kind of it. And he could not get it. I'll never forget the light bulb went on for me when I saw him. I just started doing a little bit of research about this because my sister had gone through this with her kiddos. She had a son that was having a hard time focusing at school, had been diagnosed with ADD, and they wanted to put him on medication right away. And she's like, that's my last resort. What can I do instead? So she started doing some research and she pulled dairy out of his diet. He was a huge milk drinker, pulled dairy out, some other things. And lo and behold, he started to feel better and had a little more focus. And so when I saw this parent, and again, not judging, because I've done the same thing, did it for a long time, is she had gone to the concession stand, got him a Snickers and a red Gatorade, took it back to the dugout. And I thought, I think our kids' diets are causing them major issues. And I started doing some research. And I ended up writing an article that became my first published article in a local magazine. It was Kansas City Parent. And the title of the article was, Are You Raising a Pop-Tart? And it was obviously a play on words because all these foods were feeding our kids Pop-Tarts for breakfast. I did it. I ate Pop-Tarts like crazy as a kid. And here we are now feeding our kids and we're seeing these issues with attention. And I started to really go down this path of, oh my gosh, so what else is causing issues in my kids' health? And I looked at food dyes that were in little kids' Tylenol. Why do you need dye in any of that? It makes zero sense. I started to look at all these things from my own family, started pulling things out. And realizing how much of my own health as a kid was caused probably by all these things I was eating and drinking, and now I've passed on to my kids. So I became a huge proponent of cleaner food for my family. It's been a struggle for a very long time. My oldest gets it. The middle one, not so much. The younger one, it depends on his mood if he wants to jump on that or not. But I've told them over and over again, if you eat less crap, you will feel better. That's really the bottom line. And now I've got to a point where I've seen the research and what it does genetically. And what I did was passed on to my kids, and now it's being passed on to their kids because I've created that damage in the DNA of our family. And if they can clean up what they're eating now, hopefully they can reverse or turn back time on some of that DNA damage and fix it before they decide to have kids and pass it on to their kids. It's what they call epigenetics. I've been really aware for quite a while about what this is doing. I'd share some things on social media back in the beginning of my journey through all this information, and I'm learning all this stuff, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, people don't know this. They need to know this. And a lot of kickback I got was, I ate all this as a kid and I turned out fine. However, people now in their 40s and 50s are getting cancer at higher rates than our boomer parents. So the concern here is that we are accelerating the cancer rates and chronic illness at crazy levels because how horrible the food industry has become. And so I applaud all of these people that are coming to the Senate panel to share information. They're sharing statistics, they're sharing facts, they're sharing what they're seeing as practitioners in their patients and correlating it to the introduction of chemicals in our industry, the soil quality, all these different things. The farming industry, why we're subsidizing an industry that is just creating more toxic bullshit for our consumers. I'm linking the speeches that people have made in my show notes so you can go back and watch it. But they were really great. A lot of them were talking about all the different ways that we're failing our citizens here in America. These same companies are creating foods for their European consumers. And the thing that's so frustrating is they can do it because they are required to if they want their product to be sold in European countries. They have completely different ingredients for their European products. Fruit Loops has a completely different profile of ingredients in that product than the one that's sold here in the United States because those chemicals are banned. And why can't we do that here? There's so many things about European culture that they get right. I mean, sure, there's a lot of smoking that happens in the European culture, but there's a lot of things about the food culture that is spot on. And I'm so frustrated with the fact that large corporations had their hands in the pocket of these government agencies for so long. And now we're seeing why we're suffering. And I have a really hard time throwing money at cancer research and any of those other things. And I get it. So many people I know have had cancer, but it doesn't start with the research. The research needs to happen is our food industry. Why is it killing us? And there's plenty of documentation about what this is doing to the body. And unfortunately, the whole issue is nobody makes money if we cure this. But as citizens, as Americans, this has to be what we change for the next generation. We have to. We have to stop purchasing the things that are killing us. And eventually, like if you noticed, we are seeing more products that have healthier oils like avocado oil and coconut oil. We are seeing products being cooked in those things. Sure, they're more expensive, which is a whole nother topic in itself, but there's options now because our voices were heard through our dollars. And we have to stop living this lie of, I survived, I'm doing great, I ate that shit as a kid. But for how long? How long before eating that crap as a kid? What's it doing to your body now? We aren't even eating real ingredients in any of this stuff. And it's time for us to hold government agencies, companies, anybody involved with how our food gets on our table. We have to hold them accountable, which is why you're starting to see more influencers and people talking about this is about going to your local markets, going to your local farmer's market and buying most of your fresh foods there, making your own bread. It's really easy to make your own sourdough bread these days. Making your own bread. It's got 2 freaking ingredients in it, or 3: water, yeast, flour. That's it. And there's so much information out there that none of us should be able to turn a blind eye anymore. This has got to become a priority. And the answer isn't more pharmaceuticals, more drugs. I think in the short term, some can help out. Like what I've understood about some of the peptide therapy is it helps reverse some things that have happened over time for the body. Once you get that under control, pulling back on that, so I think it's helpful in the short term. It's not a long-term solution. But I think where we need to focus our attention is what we can do in our own homes to say yes to what's real and whole and healthy for our families and say no to all the bullshit that's out there. When you look at TV, you watch a football game, you're watching a TV show. If you watch a television show or you watch a sporting event, every other commercial is some sort of food being sold to us. Fast food, usually it's also pharmaceutical drugs. There's nothing that is healthy for us in any of those commercials. No one's schlepping organic spinach, right? Not one person. There's no money in it. Lots of people have jobs because of how sick we are. And if we get healthy, what happens to those jobs? We have a lot of learning to do about how this country works. And it's so frustrating as a citizen who wants their kids to thrive. I want to thrive. I want my kids to thrive. I want my grandkids to thrive. And how impossible it is in the way things are set up today with our food industry and just culture in general, how much we are sold to that we need to have all these other things, these drugs, this, that, the other thing. And if we just looked at how food is produced in this country, we could solve so much. And I think about how much of our government is funded by these corporations. It's so frustrating. And I think what we can do at our local level is pay close attention to what's in the ingredients in your products. And the most frustrating part of this is, again, this is a socioeconomic privilege to be able to buy organic and have fresh food. So many people live in a food desert where they've got maybe one small grocery store. They're not going to carry all these healthy items. They're going to carry what's cheap and easy to get, or it's gas stations. It's crazy. A Casey's is the closest thing they have to a grocery store, some places. So here we are in a situation where you've got a family. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Are they going to go to the local market and pay top dollar for what's organic? They can't. So their options are, I'm going to get the shitty Cheerios, some lunch meat, and chips for my kids because that's what's easy on the pocketbook. It's affordable. It's either that or they don't eat. They can't afford the other stuff. And the ironic thing is, the good stuff has a lot less ingredients. If you're looking at packaged foods, the items that have less ingredients, let's say this organic coconut milk I just bought has 4 ingredients in it. That's it. And those products are way more expensive. Tell me how and why. There's no chemicals being sprayed on them. It's less ingredients. It's less processing. How does that make sense to make that more expensive? There's no way that the average American can get by without buying processed foods. They just can't. So that's never going to go away. So I guess my appeal here today is, where do we start with all this? I think the first place we start is going to our local farmers markets. See what you can find. And there's places like Aldi's even. Aldi's has organic things that are cheaper. Going to Aldi's, maybe it could be better than going to your Sprouts or your Whole Foods or places like that. Buying more frozen organic items. Frozen food tends to be a little cheaper and frozen immediately, so they last a little longer. I actually tend to like some frozen foods like frozen berries and let them thaw just a little bit and I'll eat them if I can't find anything fresh that's not a gazillion dollars. So there's some things we can do on a very individual basis. We've gotten away so much from homemade versus packaged. I'm just as guilty. I find this one sourdough bread from Whole Foods. I love it, but it's got a gazillion ingredients in it. What keeps me from making my own sourdough at home? Nothing. So I bought myself some flour this week, some yeast. I'm going to start my own sourdough and see what I can do. But man, we're sold convenience over everything. in America. How fast can we move? How fast can we get it? It's just insane how we live. The faster, the better, which is bonkers. We can make our own coffee at home. We can determine the quality. We can put it in our own stainless steel mug that's not going to poison us. We can put the right kind of milk we want in it. It is just insane of how we've decided to live. I'm just as guilty. I go to Starbucks. I go to these other fast food places here and there. I don't go very often, but I've been part of it, and I want to start thinking, how can I stop making things about being convenient for me and making it about what's good for me? Is this good for me? No. Is it good for my family? No. And really asking ourselves that question, what's the impact of this? Did I get it faster? Yes. But what's the long-term effect? This buildup of toxins, our liver is constantly fighting against, and this is a problem. Our liver is constantly fighting for survival in our bodies because it's trying to process this toxic bullshit that's coming in through our diet. And then what the liver also needs to do is process hormones, clean our blood, all these other things. And how's it going to do that? It has to shut something off as it fights these toxins. Or it goes, you know what? I don't have time for you right now. I'm going to shove you over here while I help her with her hormones. Then I'll get to you. And then guess what? It doesn't. It sits in your fat tissues and stays there for years and years and years. So it's not getting processed like we think it is. And now we're seeing the toll it's taking. Our kids are sicker than ever. We're becoming sick. Gen X, like I said, our cancer rates are higher than our parents. Our parents grew up, grandma and grandpa's farm had the fresh food they got every week. They didn't have the toxic crap. We got microwaves when I was a kid. The Schwann's man was a weekly visitor, got all the frozen processed foods we could, make life easier. We microwaved everything. Everything came in boxes, cereal. It is poisoning us. And I'm so glad this is becoming a big topic, and I hope it gets traction, and I hope it doesn't become a partisan issue. Because we as a society, we don't serve one or the other. We need to serve everybody in this country. And I hope that both parties take this on as part of their campaign. And I hope that whoever gets in office, we don't let this get shoved under the rug again, because large corporations and industry still run this country. Money has always talked in America, and I'm ready for that to change. What's happening with chronic illness and disease in this country, it is staggering. If you look at the numbers, I'm going to link some things in the show notes. You can go watch the Senate panel. You can go read articles about what's happening with chronic illness in this country. There's an individual named Dr. Zach Bush. He is another individual that really turned the light bulb on in my head about cancer, about why we really have it, why it's become a huge issue. Super informative. He was on Rich Roll's podcast. Rich Roll is R-I-C-H and then R-O-L-L, his podcast years ago. And he talked about glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, and how it is sprayed on our soils constantly. It's used to dry up crops. If they don't dry fast enough, they spray weed killer on it to dry it up. And then that's given to animals or processed for I don't know what. That's awful scary, because eventually we will eat those animals and then that gets into our system. It doesn't go away. Glyphosate does not dissipate. It is water soluble, so it leaks into all of our water sources, and now it's in our everyday drinking water. I'll never forget a statistic he said, if we stopped using glyphosate right now all across the world, it will still take 50 years for it to be gone from our environment. And what I also learned from him is what it does to the soil. Good bacteria plays a part in our immune system, which we all know this. We know gut health and good bacteria helps fight things off, right? But think about the soil. We kill off weeds. And I found this out is that weeds actually provide a lot of nutrients and healthy bacteria for the soil. They come through, they get ground up into the soil, and that's what gives it its nutrients. Then we have these amazing tomatoes and peppers and corn and all these crops that have these nutrient-rich produce. So what happens now when we use this weed killer to kill all the weeds, then plant the crops? Well, that soil becomes dead because that weed killer is actually an antibiotic. It kills all bacteria, good and bad. And so now the soil is dead. There's nothing in it. There's no healthy nutrients from those weeds. And we have empty produce, nothing of nutritional value. So now what have farmers done? Now they add fertilizer into their soil to help fertilize their crops. It's pretty amazing what Zach Bush is doing now. There's a regenerative farming movement going on. And what he's doing is teaching farmers about leaving land dormant and letting those weeds and natural plants come, regenerate that soil, then till it up and plant crops on it. Once it's gotten those weeds and the natural grasses and the natural plants that are happening, let that feed that soil, then plant crops and see how your crops do after that. He's got a great movement called Farmer's Footprint that is, I think, going to change so much about farming here in this country if we can let go of all the old bullshit and subsidies and all this junk that we're doing to produce these massive crops be sent out to other countries and whatever. Certain countries don't want our crap. They don't want our GMO corn. They don't want all that junk. And if we can support farmers that are doing regenerative practices, I'm all for it. It starts locally. It's finding the people that are doing the right thing in their products and going from there. And then it's just really weeding out the bullshit at the grocery store, getting away from the packaged stuff as much as possible. I know having kids, it sucks. It's so hard. I think as parents, part of our duty is to share this knowledge with our kids, help them learn how to read ingredient labels. The other thing too is help them understand, okay, when you eat this processed, crappy food, whatever, how do you feel afterwards? And making that connection for them until they start to understand how their body feels after they've eaten that kind of food, it won't connect. But as soon as they make that connection, oh, I ate that food and I got a headache 2 hours later. Or I ate that and I was immediately tired. I was yawning and I had no energy. Helping them connect the dots is so important. What if we substitute something else in there? Instead of a fruit roll up with all these food days, how about an organic apple and see how you feel? I think it's worth the effort. Don't we all want healthy kids? Don't we all want our kids to have less illness? Don't we want all of our kids to not have to deal with the bullshit we had to deal with? Don't we want our kids to have less allergies? Don't we want our kids to have better gut health? We want our kids to not feel bad. We want our kids' brains to work at school. We want our kids to live better than we did. And I think having the excuse of, well, I ate that and I'm fine. We are not fine. We're not fine. It's getting worse. And our kids are suffering and we're suffering. If you're in the Gen X age bracket, you're seeing friends being diagnosed with cancer. I can tell you right now off the top of my head, I can say 5 or 6 immediately. And half of them have passed away. There's been breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, brain cancer, another breast cancer, prostate cancer. It's a couple of those. I probably have 10 people, boom, off the top of my head, I can tell you about cancer at my age, or if not younger. It's not a coincidence. And I'm not saying they're the ones to blame for their own cancer at all. What I'm saying is our food industry is poisoning us constantly. It's what's allowed in our food, our water, our everyday, the chemicals we're introduced to constantly, air fresheners, carpet, paint. It's in everything in society. Everything has chemicals in it. And we're constantly fighting to get rid of them in our body. And our body just eventually goes, I can't do it anymore. It disrupts the system. And we have a disrupted system. It can't communicate well. And when the cells can't communicate well, you get rogue cells. And the cells that are healthy aren't able to find them to get rid of them. And we get cancer. It's just part of our lives now, which is so shitty. So I highly recommend taking a peek at the links in my show notes, get educated about it, find out how you can get on the bandwagon, whether it's petitions or being a voice in your community or supporting your local farmers, whatever you can do. But we can no longer pretend it's not making an impact. It is. It's been making an impact for a long time. And it's time to take our health back. It's time to make this a priority, because if not, our kids are going to be the ones that suffer the most. They're going to lose parents at an earlier age. I want to be around for a long time. And I'm so afraid of getting cancer and taking that away from me. So I'm doing all I can to keep that from happening. So really, this is more of an awareness thing. If you haven't seen the Senate panel and heard the statistics and learned about what's happening here in America versus other countries, I want you to learn it, understand it, and then do what you can in your own daily life to take back your health. I know there's so many things out there that we are bombarded with that we have no control over, but what we can control, do what you can on a daily basis. And The more of us that keep doing it, the louder it tells companies, we're not buying your bullshit anymore. We're not buying this. We're not buying that. We're buying the things that we know are healthy for us, and that's it. And hopefully some of these businesses go out of business. That's how it is. That's how it should be. This piece of shit companies have been out there giving us absolute trash and calling it food. I hope they go out of business. Either that, or if they completely change their model and they change the way that they do business, or else they're going to be dinosaurs and they'll become extinct. Thank God. Our kids deserve better, and so do you. Thanks for listening. Come hang out with me over in Substack. Let's chat about this. What are your thoughts? Let's see what we can do and make an impact together. Let's not just talk the talk, let's walk the walk. Let's get out there and make an impact on our families. It starts with us. If we can do something in our daily lives and we start eating better and then feeling better, and our families see that, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your brother and sister-in-law, that all of a sudden they go, you look great. Your skin's glowing, your energy. And you're like, yeah, I did this, this, and this. Stopped eating this. I do this now. And they go, all right. So then they start maybe looking at their own choices. It's a ripple effect. And it starts with us and our own immediate family. And then I hope it goes out to the rest of the people within your reach. All right, take care. Love you. And we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you found this episode either helpful, inspiring, entertaining, or just made you feel less alone. Or maybe all of those things. If so, I'd love it if you'd share this episode with a friend as well as on your social media. And if I dare ask for more, to rate and review the podcast on your favorite platform, especially Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You see, the more reviews we have, the more people we can reach, and the bigger the Odd Life community can become. You guys are the best. I can't wait to chat again next week, so we'll see you then.